in our crime feature today, we're talking about cybercrimes. And we do have Sharon Knowles, a certified cybersecurity investigator, with us. And in modern day fraudsters are now using things like artificial intelligence and machine learning to their advantage, optimizing social media intelligence, deepfakes, or fabricated imposter identities, along with a growing list of innovative tactics to deceive unsuspecting individuals. To talk to us more about financial digital scams tonight is Sharon Knowles, a certified cybersecurity investigator. Sharon, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Welcome.
Good evening, Masango, and good evening to your listeners. Thank you for having me.
So Sharon, there's nothing more scary than just, your hard-earned money looking at your bank account and it's just gone. And it's really a dreadful thought just to even think about the fact that, you won't have the ability to meet your expenses at the end of the day or end of the month. How many of these incidents, when would you say the peak is? Because a lot of the time I feel the scammers are there during December. And I think one of the anecdotes is that these opportunities haven't been around the whole year. Bonuses usually are around December times. In your experience, when do these peaks and troughs happen, or is it just a consistent thing that we should be aware of?
So it's sort of a hard line because in December, scammers were exceptionally busy. It was like they had budgets to meet this past December because we were so busy that the amount of people that came through to us with different types of financial scams where they'd lost so much money. And, the sad thing is that it happens all year round. But as you say, there are highs and lows, and at specific times, it's certain scams that are more prominent than others.
Of course, and if you're just listening in, Sharon is a business leader with a formidable background in diverse areas, which include digital business within both the public and private sectors. She also started her career in retail as a trainee manager before moving into the digital world. She's an executive MBA from the Graduate School of Business, University of Cape Town, and is busy completing a Master's of Management in Digital Business through the WITS Business School. Currently, Sharon heads up Da Vinci Forensics, a cybersecurity and forensic company, and Sharon is committed to helping educate people around cybersecurity, as well as being a keyboard warrior for animal rights. I love that last part, Sharon.
Yeah, you got to speak for those who can't speak themselves.
And of course, you mentioned that there's been a few people, quite a lot of people rather, who have been in touch with you regarding these scams. I also shared some information about my mom regarding WhatsApp, and I said, no, don't click, don't. And thank goodness she listened. What are some of the old and new scams that we should be aware of?
So the one scam that was really, really prominent in December was the Facebook financial scam. So there are sort of various variants around the Facebook scam, but scammers either created fake profiles or hacked into existing profiles. So what they would do is they would then send a message. And the reason that it convinced so many people, and this started around October last year, the reason that it convinced so many people to sort of not think twice about it was that the messages were coming through in Afrikaans. So, hello my maatjie, ek het help nodig, and for a lot of people, they don't think that a hacker could speak Afrikaans. It's just you go into this specific mindset. So that was the first scam, and it was what they would do is take over the profile. If you had a business account attached to it, they would then take over that business part of Meta, of your Meta account, which is Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. And then that's when the havoc started, because a lot of people list their credit cards or they connect their bank accounts to Facebook, and that's how they pay for their adverts. And that was it went on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and nobody could get any feedback from Facebook, including us as investigators. We were writing in, we were trying to call in, we were listing support tickets saying that there is obviously a phishing campaign on the go, because so many people have been scammed out of money from their business profiles or on their personal profiles. They were sending money, to their friends who needed help. And the one that's just come through now, sort of mid-December, was where they would place a post or an advert and say, I will pay you to comment on products or Facebook posts, that type of thing. So what happens is that you sort of pay a registration fee and you get the level entry package where let's say you get so many rands for so many comments.
Mm-hmm.
And as human nature, people want to make more money. Things are tough out there, and they then pay to go to a higher package. So on the first package, you start doing this and you get paid and you make some money and you think, okay, well, it's obviously not a scam because I'm getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the second level, you get paid as well, and you think, well, this is fantastic. And then you pay for the next level, which is a substantial amount of money. And even those people that it's not sort of disposable income, it's not going to play with.
Sure.
They're in the mindset that I'm going to pay over this 5,000 Rand. I've got my money on the other two packages. It can't be a scam. And that's when they lose their money. If I tell you we've had 3 to 4 calls a day with people that have lost money, they've paid it over, and it's very difficult to track back or investigate this type of financial crime because, let's say, for example, you get all the details of the person who's doing this payment, that type of thing. You look at their payment details and the way they do it. Those bank accounts are closed. They're using specific banks here in South Africa. Those bank accounts are closed. The money's being withdrawn. Sure. And a lot of times they use normal people like you and I, and they say, look, have you got a bank account here at this bank? You say, no, I'll give you 100 Rand, don't open a bank account. So the bank account is genuine.
Oh, my gosh.
In a lot of the cases. Not all of them, but in a lot of the cases. So it's a very tough investigation to do, and it's heartbreaking for us to come back and say, look, there's no way you're getting your money back.
Sharon, can you just take us back a step, just for some of us, what is phishing exactly?
So phishing comes across in many forms, and there are a lot of fancy names for it. Mm-hmm. So phishing happens when somebody tries to or attempts to steal your details. So an example would be, let's say you get an email from your bank, and they say, here is your bank statement, but because you've been a very good person and you've been saving with to upgrade your account, please link here. Please click the link. So they need you to click a link, and that's a very simple form of phishing. You've got, which is...
We seem to have lost Sharon there. We're just going to try and get her back on the line. But if you have been scammed, and we talk about phishing specifically, and if you've just joined in, Sharon Knowles is a certified cybersecurity investigator. She's a business leader with a formidable background in diverse areas, including digital business. And as a certified cybercrime investigator, has a passion for lifelong learning. And she brings a wealth of experience spanning over 2 decades across various professional landscapes. So if you've been scammed, if you want to be a bit more proactive, I know that there's businesses as well that have this compliance that makes sure that their employees are not susceptible to these scams. Sharon, thank you for rejoining us. You were just explaining the intricacies of phishing to us. Welcome back.
Okay, thank you. So the second sort of phishing type scam is when you get a call from your bank, and the person says, I'm from the fraud department, and somebody's attempted to make a fraudulent transaction on your account, but don't worry, I'm here to help you. You are going to get a OTP via SMS. Give me that OTP and I will sort this fraudulent issue out for you. And a lot of people give the OTP across and they get into the victim's mobile device or their bank account. So phishing is just about getting the other person's details and accessing either their bank accounts, their mobile devices, and taking what doesn't belong to them. And the sort of the other one, which is also quite on the rise at the moment, is where you get a call from cell phone, one of the cell phone companies, and they also say to you that somebody's trying to upgrade on your number, and they're going to have to send through an SMS with an OTP. And once the OTP comes in, you provide the person, you provide them with that OTP number, and they prevent the upgrade. Now, the reason that these phishing attempts are so successful is they phone late at night and they phone early in the morning, especially with the cell phone companies, because if you get a call at 6 o'clock in the morning, you know, you would never think it's a scam. You think, gee whiz, these guys are really on the ball.
True.
And you have that phoning me and you just hand it over. So it's not a question of a person being silly or not, you know, or being silly about, you know, handing over these details. Phishing is an emotional crime. Cybercrime is an emotional crime. They play in a person's emotions. And, you know, you get just caught up in what's happening at that specific moment. And sometimes you don't have the time to think logically.
True. And often at times we there's a level of, you know, pride that goes, you think that, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was stupid enough. And it happens to quite a lot of people from across academic and all age groups. You've got professionals, you've got people across all occupations being scammed, Sharon. Is this what you've noticed? And when you've been scammed, there's that level of shame that you have. And you're like, how could I be so stupid? How do you work through that? Because you do need assistance.
You do. So I'm going to tell you a little story. About 4 or 5 years ago, I got a call, 6 o'clock in the morning, and this person said to me, I am your char lady's brother. I am very sad to tell you that she's passed away. She lived in a local community. The body is still in the house. The children are there, and I know her children, 3 young girls. And the funeral services or the city won't pick it up because it's in a local community. They don't drive there. And he's hysterical on the phone. I'm emotional. I start crying because I'm thinking of now these poor girls lying around, you know, standing there around their mom's dead body. And I say to him, okay, how can I help? What can I do that'll help you? He says to me, can you transfer 5,000? We're going to get a private mortuary to come, and they will come into the community area and they will pick up the body. I did not even think. I transferred 5,000 Rand immediately.
Sure.
He phoned me a little bit later that afternoon, and now I'm really worried because the phone is off, the girls' phones are off, and I don't know exactly where the house is. I've got an idea, but I can't go there because I just don't know which house is hers. 12 o'clock, I get another call, and it's him on the phone. He says, thank you. They need another 3,000 Rand deposit because what has happened is that they picked the body up, but now they've got to transfer it to Cape Town. It was then that I started to think and wonder. And I said to him, look, give me some time. I need to make an arrangement. Long story short, on Monday morning, the doorbell rings. And there is my char lady. I start crying because she's alive, and I'm really happy about that. I get furious with myself later, and obviously I start tracking this guy and try to find him where he is. But she says to me she had received a call the Friday afternoon from the Labour Department who asked, was I treating her well? Was she paying UIF? All those type of things. And then he said to her, okay, for answering all the questions, he's going to give her airtime, but she has to switch off her phone from Friday until Monday morning for the airtime to take effect.
Sure, Sharon. I'm so sorry that happened to you. And yeah, I think they really, I understand now why you said it's an emotional crime. And we have Sammy on the line. And Sammy, good evening.
Good evening, Masango, in your test. Masango, one of these digital scams that people are not aware of and are not mostly being alerted about, warned about, is the public Wi-Fi scams. And it's prevalent throughout the year. So what happens is that I'll take my router there, right, and my laptop. I'll go to a public Wi-Fi, and then I'll change the name. So I'll go to Sentinel Mall. Then I'll name it maybe Sentinel Mall 2 gigabytes. So whenever you search for Wi-Fi, you'll come across it. I'll make it free access, right? So when you log in as an unsuspecting person, you log in and then you register all your credentials, like all the Wi-Fi hotspots. Then the moment you log in, I'll trigger a malware that's called a man-in-the-middle attack. Then I masquerade. Maybe you want to access an e-shopping website or whatsoever. The moment I trigger that malware, you get fooled into thinking that you are going through the website of the service provider, and the service provider as well gets fooled. The server at the service provider gets fooled into thinking that they are communicating with the client. So I've intercepted your communication with the service provider in that way. And then every credential that you enter, it gets through my laptop. So I'm able to get everything that you enter, your name, your ID number, whatsoever, your passcode. And that way I'm able to steal everything from you from a remote location. I don't want to have to do it through the public Wi-Fi. So I can sit at home, do everything. As long as your credentials haven't changed, I can steal from you. You can just see money disappearing from your accounts. So what I'm saying is that people should stay away from public Wi-Fi, because I've seen it being done. I know how it's done because I'm studying computer science. I've seen it being done, and I've got experience with all of those things. So I think it's one of the things. Public Wi-Fi. Stay away from public Wi-Fi, especially the free ones that do not require a passcode.
All right, thank you so much, Sammy. We do have Sharon, who is a certified cybersecurity investigator. Sharon, do you have any comments or advice regarding what Sammy's just shared?
Well, exactly what he's saying does happen with a lot of free Wi-Fi spots. So when you go into your mall and you go shopping, a lot of people connect, especially people that take their teenagers because they can't do without their mobile phones, so they connect. But we always say to people, when you go into a mall and you have to connect, use a VPN. That's one. It's not 100% safe, but use a VPN. Don't do things like your banking and, specific stuff like sort of buying airtime or things like that on a free Wi-Fi spot, because those Wi-Fi spots that the retailers or even the mall provides are not secure. There's no sort of protection on them. And like Sammy says, if you have a baddie sitting in a shopping center,
yes,
you can intercept that traffic. So I can see exactly what you're typing in. I can see exactly what you're doing. And if you're typing in your banking details, I can see that as well. Personally, I never connect to free Wi-Fi. I make sure I've got mobile data, and I don't connect to anybody's free Wi-Fi.
So Sharon, would you say that cyber criminals in South Africa have become more sophisticated, and where would you place them versus the rest of the world?
So it's an interesting question, that, because about 2, maybe 3 years ago, I would have said, South Africa's not really on top there. We're still sort of lagging behind. But in the last year, with the amount of cases that we've worked on and the investigations that we've done, there certainly has been an increase in cybercrime, and also the complexity of the crimes that are happening and constantly evolving. So saying that, it's not always South Africans that are involved. With a lot of the cases and the people that have sort of been caught are not tourists, but they're not South Africans. They I can't think of the word right now, but they're from other countries.
Yeah.
And they come into South Africa because people don't take the time to just read, sort of breathe before they do something. We are very naive here in South Africa with a lot of things. There's a lot of people, if you go to the ATM,
yes,
You go and watch some of the people there. They are so trusting with the person standing next to them to help them. You know, when somebody phones to say, let me help you, we're from the fraud department, people are not it's not that they're not savvy, it's just that it's the furthest thing from their mind. And cybercrime, people often place in a technical category and say, yes, it's this and that. But it's not. It's about people, you know. And the only way that South Africa is going to have a chance at fighting back cyber criminals is becoming more educated. And, you know, when somebody says put two-factor authentication or three-factor authentication onto your profiles, onto your banking, that type of thing, don't think of it as a chore.
True.
It is the way that you need to protect yourself. And because it's evolving, it's really crucial for individuals and institutions to stay informed and vigilant. And only awareness and education are key in combating all these scams.
So if you just joined us or you're listening in, we're with Sharon Knowles, a certified cybersecurity investigator. Don't be too proud. It's happened to many of us, including myself, Sharon, and Sharon also shared her story. It's an emotional crime. They play on the psychology of people. And yeah, I think for me, I've been scammed quite a bit because I'm a bit of a bleeding heart. And people will ask for help. And then you're like, but wait, man, this is not the first time. It's not the second time. Eventually, it just clicks. So in your career has taken you across the globe, Sharon, allowing you to immerse yourself in diverse cultures and gaining unique insight, and this international exposure has been invaluable, and it has enabled you to provide well-rounded, culturally aware advice to both up and coming business leaders and established business. It's interesting that you say culturally aware advice. What does that look like in terms of culture and awareness?
So different countries treat cybercrime in a specific way. So if you think about the way that you think about something, let's say somebody pickpockets you and steals your money, your cards, and they go to an ATM and they'll steal all your money. In different countries, that type of crime is dealt with differently. You know, in South Africa, if you think about it, will you catch the pickpocket or somebody who's seen something come forward and say something? If you look at Singapore, if you get caught, your days are really, really numbered. India is also very similar to South Africa. You got to get caught first. But in terms of cybercrime and people starting to look at cybercrime in a specific way, I think understanding the culture and the way that it's been done, you know, it sounds strange to people because, you know, when you talk about culture, you talk about maybe the way you dress or what you eat or how you speak or your belief system, that type of thing.
Mindset.
And yes. And I'll give you another example. On a classified site, I had a Vietnamese lady who was a moderator for me. So she moderated user content. And she kept allowing adverts that people were selling their organs.
Sure.
So we're shocked. We're shocked because, oh my goodness, how can you do that? She would let the adverts pass. So eventually I called her in and I said to her, you can't do this because we can't allow it. You can't allow people to post that they're selling a kidney or this, that. But to her, it was acceptable because that person was battling and needed the money.
Sure. Sharon, we have Vukile on the line, and he'd like to talk about telemarketing specifically. And I think it's really a sore point to a certain extent. And I think there's a level of accountability that needs to be taken from telemarketers in various platforms. Vukile, good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much, and compliments of the new year.
Compliments.
Thanks for taking my call.
Go ahead.
The issue which more worries me is more to do with Copy Act, and especially to do with telemarketing is indicated. How are we protected about this Copy Act? This database being held by our service providers, where you got an account or you're doing what's the banks and all those things. Where does these people get information from? How are we protected? How do we get, what recourse do we have as times I read the things of Copy Act, because you keep on blocking these people, you keep on deleting them. If this is technology, more any transaction you're doing, you're blocking them, you are deleting their messages. They see what's happening in that transaction because of the technology involved. And at the end of the day, what can we do? When they phone me, I get calls daily and these things. I've never answered to them for many years. I've been using those other service providers and everything. And immediately answer them in Afrikaans. Like, this is the strategy I'm using now. They drop the call immediately, but you can feel the language they are using, the tones. You can hear the tone. These are foreigners. Thank you very much. I'll listen on the radio.
Thanks, Vukile, for your call. Sharon? Hi, Sharon.
Hi.
So Vukile was talking about telemarketers and the POPI Act itself, and he's really sounding frustrated because he's trying to block them, and he's quite confused as to how his numbers might have been gotten, and does the POPI Act work? And it's quite frustrating. Do you have any, and he asked if there's any recourse at all.
So telemarketers operate within a regulatory framework that protects consumers' personal information and privacy. And this is very important in light of the POPI Act. Mm-hmm. So they have to, the guidelines that telemarketers have to follow is they have to get consent. They have to be very purpose specific about what they collect their data for. And then only the minimal data must be collected. There has to be transparency, and obviously security measures. Mm-hmm. So what you can do as a consumer, you have enhanced rights under the POPI Act. You can request the information about the data that they have on you. You can ask for corrections or even demand the deletion of the data. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you can say to this person that's calling, unless it's a robot call, you would have to look at who the company is. But you have the power as a consumer to have more control of your personal information. And that's looking at sort of ideal situation. The sort of challenge comes in is how do you take the next step in saying, listen, do not phone me again. And I mean, I get these calls as well, 2-3 times a day. And it is frustrating because when the person's talking to you, they're reading from a script, they want this, they want that, and you can ask them. So if a person phones you can ask them for specific details. So let's say let's use a poor insurance guy. You can ask them for their specific registration numbers. You can ask them for all of that and where they got your data from. The thing is, to get your name removed off this database, all these databases, and there's a number of ways that you can sort of hacks that you can use. When you go to, let's say you go to let's say you go to a doctor. Let's say you go to one of these doctor centers. You're going to see the doctor. They're going to ask you for your email address and all your telephone numbers. Use an email address that's not your regular email address. Cell phone providers are the worst. You go in there in the morning, this afternoon, you've got 3 mails and you've got 2 telephone calls. Use that spare address. But you have to be quite consistent in ensuring or enforcing that they remove your data or say that you're going to report them to the information regulator. There's very little sort of evidence at this stage or sort of success at this stage with the information regulator and the cases that have come through to them, because obviously they're also still finding their way, but you can report companies for flouting the POPI Act. And I think there is a way that you could go to the website and actually report a company who is not adhering to your requests and that. But unfortunately, it is time-consuming.
I've just, it's the first time I've heard of, actually, thank you so much for sharing that information. I'm actually Googling it right now, the information regulator. And it's almost, for me, I get frustrated quite a bit when like, let's say, for example, very recognized businesses ask you for certain checks and balances and for you to confirm certain things. And I get frustrated and I say, but do you understand that this is exactly how people get scammed? So you talk about that culture of building awareness. Is there a better way for us to verify and make sure that we're not getting scammed? Because I get so frustrated. I'm like, this is exactly how people get scammed. And then later on, when you've gone through the exercise, because it's so forceful, and you understand on the other end of the line is someone who's really trying to do their job, can we be a bit more courteous towards consumers, especially as formidable organizations?
I think that there is so much data from consumers. So you're a large retail company. I like to use examples. You're a large retail company. Mm-hmm. You have your client base from 10 years ago. You've been mailing, you've been phoning these clients, these consumers all the time. Then Poppy comes in and you've been told, okay, you now have to put in place somebody who has unsubscribed from your email to make sure that's in effect. If they say that they don't want your phone call, you can't phone them again because, they have to remove you because that is your request. It's sort of like a hot pot of confusion for a lot of people because you have to put in place some sort of automated process. And that's where maybe machine learning comes in place, because what you could do is use machine learning to build a process that takes this data in and cleans this data. Mm-hmm. And some companies are better than other companies.
True.
And then, as you say, you when you answer the call and it is a telemarketer on the other end, you understand that they're trying to make a buck. Even though it's
and you don't want to be rude. We're generally very conservative and empathetic.
Yeah, and by the end of the day, they give you a call, and you're at the end of your tether, and you're a polite person, and you don't want to be rude to the person, but there's never a reason to be rude to anybody, but you have to be firm and say, I'd like myself removed off this database. Please give me a reference number and what is your name?
I like that. Seems very quite specific, and we do have a lot of callers. We're at the tail end of our show with Sharon Knowles, a certified cybersecurity investigator, and she has a proven track record in developing and implementing scalable processes and systems that drive growth, enhance efficiency and security, and improve customer satisfaction. Her expertise lies in crafting and executing cyber strategies that are in sync with organizations' aspirations for expansion and success. Sharon, what does a cyber strategy look like?
So a cyber strategy is where you take a look at what you've got in place to protect your organization, their assets, and that includes hardware, software. It also includes your people. Mm-hmm. So when we build a strategy, we have a look at how we protect each channel. So how do we protect the hardware? How do we protect the software? And how do we equip our staff, not only to protect themselves, but to protect the organization? So what we do is we usually sit with the company. We do a little bit of brainstorming about where they want to be, and we build in all the other areas of business because everybody's got a marketing strategy, they've got a growth strategy, and you build that into play. And you make sure that throughout each process, cybersecurity is taken into context. Because when you work with marketing teams, it is an enhanced organization when you have a cybersecurity component. So your marketing team can go out to the clients and say, look, this is what we've done to protect you. This is our process. This is what we've done from a cybersecurity perspective. And we do it through each division to make sure that at the end of the day, that strategy is from A to Z. we include building how we train the staff, what we train the staff on,
Yes.
to make sure that they're also equipped, because it's no use building the strategy and you forget the human component, because it's not going to work if your staff don't have buy-in, but they're also not, that they haven't been given the tools, because you can't expect somebody to do a one-day training course and then say, okay, go forth, go and protect the business. You've had this one-day training course. It's continuous learning, and a strategy has to encompass everything that the organization wants to do and to achieve. And, a lot of organizations are starting to realize that and are starting with people first, which is great. Because once you've got people as your number one and you've equipped them, then the other things fall into place a lot easier.
Talking about people, we have some of the most well-read and knowledgeable listeners, and they're quite interested in this topic. James in Roodepoort, good evening and welcome.
Hi, Masango. Thank you so much for taking my call, and good evening to your guest today. I found out that one of these building supply companies that I used to go to a lot, if I go there and I buy something and I go back and I return something, they always give you a little book to write your name in, your cell phone number and whatever else, and the amount that they're going to refund you. So for their own records. If I do that over a weekend, on Monday I start getting my first SMS for adverts from other companies. So what I started doing was just change the last number of my digit of my cell phone number, and it stopped. It never happened again. The other thing I wanted to say was that this one insurance company that's been for years advertising that they will pay you to give you a quote or something. If they can't match your premium, they'll pay you money for it. They have asked me so many times for a quotation. Every time I refuse, based on the fact that they want my ID number. And I say, before I'm your client, you don't need my ID number. You don't need my physical home address. You need the street I live in, because my area might be a dangerous area or whatever, high-risk area. You don't need my physical address. And I've had managers call me back saying, no, we are not selling this information. We just want to give you a quote. And I refused based on that, because those guys are paying, I think it's 600 Rand now, 800 Rand or whatever, if they can't match your premium. Where does that money come from? Somebody is feeding these databases that others are trying to get away from. I believe that firmly. And I think that's where it happens. I had a guy call me about a couple of months ago on a Saturday lunchtime, and he said he's phoning me from Capitec because I'm a Capitec client. He said he noticed now that they've been deducting 99 Rand from my account for the last 12 months. And he wants to rectify that because he sees there that I didn't give them a signature for that. So it is something that was done in error. They want to fix it. So he says to me, the amount we owe you is X amount, and he told me the number, and he said, now what I want you to do now is just open on your phone, just go to the app so that I can show you what to do so that we can refund you the money. And then at one point he said to me, now type that amount in there. And he gave me the numbers, and I said, hang on. Up until then, I must have been asleep, because then I really woke up and I said, no, there's here something wrong. And then he put the phone down. And 2 weeks later, he phoned me in error again. He obviously didn't mark my number off that I called onto him, but he tried it again. It never stopped. It just carries on.
Sure. James, thank you so much for that input. It's a really tough time, Sharon. Seems like I think I also used that where I used just the one digit. I put it wrong.
Yeah, and even when you go into some of these residential estates and you fill in your name and your number and all that type of thing, and you by Tuesday, Wednesday, following week. So I went in, I usually put myself as James Bond. They really pick it up. And I know that as soon as they get the call, and then I go back and I go and see. But the thing is, there it is, it's a people thing. What are they doing with that? Yes, they want to protect the estate, and that it's not a very effective way of protecting the estate, the estate. Because if I'm a baddie, and they give me the board to sign. And I got my camera there. I'm going to take a photo, and I'm going to see ID number. I'm going to see telephone number. I'm going to see name. And as a cybercrime investigator, I can build a profile just from that, because I will find you online and build your profile and go from there. You know, if a bank phones you, you do not need to give your ID number. You can say, I'm not comfortable with that. And they can then say, okay, you know, can you give me a birth date, or will you be comfortable if I read it to you, that type of thing. So you've got to be vigilant when you get a call, especially from the bank or anything that has got to do with financial, if there's any financial implication. And if it's, you know, that old saying of if it's too good to be true, you've got to think, you know. So, you know, when the bank phones you, the bank will really phone you. If they've got so many thousands of visitors, they will really phone you. Yes, the fraud department might phone to check, but they won't ask you for an OTP. They won't ask you for a PIN. They won't ask you for anything. Nedbank, I don't know if I was supposed to say, but Nedbank are really good because when they are checking something, their fraud department, you're on the phone with them and they'll say to you, I'm sending you a OTP to do something on your account. But they won't ask you for your PIN number and they won't ask you for a password. Nobody will ever do that. And people are too quick to say, look, I don't know technology. I'm not 100% comfortable with it. Just breathe, think what the person is asking you, and rather ask a family member to assist you with something that's got to do with the bank or something like that. You know, don't allow, well, these days you can't allow a stranger to help you, you know, if they're just going to help you do this and that, and, you know, you can't, not anymore.
I think the idea of compliance is quite important, and we discussed if your company is compliant, it can protect your employees, it can protect also your customers as well. And you talked about the importance of buy-in and the people itself, and I've been assisted quite, you know, it might be tedious, but going through those courses and making sure that your employees are aware of phishing scams, and there's fun ways. I've seen videos as well. I think our organizations do it quite well. How would you look at it in terms of top-down versus bottom-up approach when it comes to compliance?
You know, that is a great question, because everybody has got to participate. And, you know, sometimes they say, well, the C-suite are too busy, or the executives haven't got time, or, you know, they're doing this and they're doing that. And all the staff at junior levels or middle levels, they all get trained. But phishing scams target the CEO, the CFO, the COO. If a phishing scam comes in, and let's say they've got access to a phishing link, and even if it's a junior staff member, clicked on a link, they've got malware on the organization systems and that, they will go after the person who makes the payment, so the financial team, and usually the CFO who makes the final payment in that. Everybody's got to be trained. And when we go into an organization, we say to them, it has to be every single person that has to have buy-in, because if certain people get trained and certain people don't get trained, they become the weakest link. And unfortunately, organizations need to understand that the C-suite, the executive, it has to be part of their KPIs as well. Everybody has got to be part of that cybersecurity circle, that education circle, because it is. I mean, cybercrime in South Africa is actually rampant at the moment. You know, organizations, they say, oh, I don't have money for this and I don't have money for that. You have to start at a point, and, you know, if you can't afford something like a penetration test, which is where we assume the position of a hacker and we attempt to hack the company, start with a vulnerability scan where we scan we scan the organization looking for, you know, places of vulnerability and gaps and that type of thing. But you have to start somewhere. And with an organization, people work in the organization, you have to start with your people as well.
I like that penetration test. And can you just tell us, maybe explain what ethical hacking is? I'm a big fan of movies, and I've seen so many, virtuous people who've, been on the good side, and it's quite interesting. But can you just give us a better understanding of what ethical hacking is?
So as an ethical hacker, let's take a step back. Every organization should have something called a penetration test. Mm-hmm. Now, a penetration test happens either once a year or twice a year. You bring in an external ethical hacker, okay? And there are different types of penetration testing that you do. We call the first test, or one of the tests, a white box, where that means we have all the access details. So you give us passwords, you give us all the details. We have a gray box, which is a combination of white box and black box. White box, you have all the details. Black box is where you give us nothing. We assume the position of a hacker, of a cyber criminal, and we attack the organization to find out where those gaps are. Now, as an ethical hacker, you make a commitment. It's like signing an oath. So if you attack an organization, you're going to stop at a certain point because you don't want to destroy the organization. You don't want to go into certain areas. You will then say to the company, I've managed to access this area, and you stop there. A cyber criminal doesn't stop. He goes in and he takes those details and he uses it for malicious intent. An ethical hacker, you are trained in specific tools, software, how to manage it. You get trained in a whole lot of stuff. It's not a very easy course. You have to understand, coding, and you have to understand the way that computers work from A to Z. You have to understand how networks are built. You have to understand how threats work. And an ethical hacker is committed to that organization for that duration of the penetration test to find as many gaps as possible and to help that organization get to a point where you can say to them, these are all your gaps, you have to remediate immediately. When we do a penetration test and let's say we find something like that's really incredibly, that company could be breached, we notify immediately. We don't wait until the period is over because the penetration test can take from a week to 3 weeks. And it's something simple as one of the login files can be accessed from an external IP, and IP is sort of an address, a computer address. So we would notify the company immediately. And the thing with being a ethical hacker is that a lot of companies employ their own ethical hackers as well. So sometimes the word hacker is looked in as a sort of in a negative connotation. We don't call bad hackers, we call them cyber criminals because that's what they are. They steal.
That's very important.
So they steal. And a black hat hacker, it is a crime to hack. It is a crime to attack an organization and sort of breach them. That is a crime. That is a cyber crime. So we call them cyber criminals.
Sharon, you've really inspired a lot of our listeners. And I mean, your wonderful career itself we need more people like you. And just as a parting shot, one of our listeners is a bit curious about your vocation.
Good evening. I just want to ask regarding the POPI Act as a e-hailing driver. Most of the time when you get to the estate and the complexes, they will scan your driver's license and your disc as well. So I just need to know, is it by law? What is this exercise regarding the POPI Act? Is it allowed, or can I simply refuse that they take my data like that? Because most of the time I will ask them, where is this data going to? What are you going to do with it? How long will it be on your database? And those people are They will tell me I'm just a security guard. I'm just doing my work. So I just need to know: is it lawful that whatever company invented those gadgets that they can keep our data on their database?
Hi, Masango. This is Kevin from Tutuza. Can you please ask Sharon, what do you do to become like a cybercrime expert? Is taking like criminology as a study like the first step to becoming like a cyber expert? Like, I don't know, can she just explain that? What are the things that you must do to become like a cyber crime like specialist? Sharp.
So, Sharon, I think you already answered the first one, but I think for our second listener, how can they get into this amazing career?
Okay, so to get into cybersecurity, there are a couple of things that you need to have. If you don't have the opportunity to go to university, there are a lot of sites online. There are a lot of websites where you can go and learn for free, and you can start with a basic cybersecurity course. So even if you go to Google and you type in cybersecurity course, they offer a free course and you can start there. Cybersecurity it's a very, very large domain and it's got lots of areas, and you need to find where your passion lies. So go and have a look at Google. That's the first thing. There is another place called Cybery, CYBRARY, which offers some free courses, even Udemy. But you need to learn coding languages, and the languages that I suggest are Python, Shell, and Bash, and they're quite complicated. So you need to make sure that you start at one point and you go through I got tongue-tied there. You have to sort of start at one point and go through every level of training that they offer you and attempt every part of that course, because you have to understand it in order to become an ethical hacker.
Sharon, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time and your insights this evening. All the best.
Thank you.